Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast, where rhythm, resistance, and rest fuel creative survival and collective healing. Today's guest is Malaysia Harrell, a board-certified psychotherapist, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and founder of Blissful Life Consulting. A veteran and advocate for mental wellness, she helps high-achieving women move from burnout to alignment through faith, stillness, and healing.
Malaysia, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Let's just jump into the questions. For sure, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, your pathway to success and wellness?
Yes, so thank you, Tinora, for having me on. I think this is such a wonderful blessing, and I love what you're doing with, promoting wellness, health and wellness in our community. I think it's really, really important.
Sure.
I'm Malaysia Harrell, for those of you who are not familiar, and I'm a psychotherapist. I've been doing therapy almost 30 years, and I am a veteran as well. And I've retired, and now I have a business called Blissful Life Consulting, and we do holistic wellness solutions for organizations, groups, and corporations as well. We do employee wellness. And I'm also a spiritual transformation coach based on what you'll hear about me today. And I help high achieving women go from being successful to being in soul alignment, which is really, really important. Also, I am a speaker, a keynote speaker, and I go around traveling all over the world, having the opportunity to speak. So I'm just blessed to be of service. I will say that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that and for being
Yeah.
here. Your path sounds like it's taken some twists and turns. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like being in the military as a Black woman? That in of itself is a challenging kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then how you're able to take that experience into what you do now.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking me that. I went into the military after 9/11. I have, always been, a person of service and, was very proud to serve. I started in junior ROTC in high school with Air Force. And so I was in uniform from a very young age. And after 9/11, I decided to go in the military, in the Air Force. And, I did about 7 years in the Air Force. One of the things about being a person of a Black woman in the military is that it's a little different. You come from environments where you've already been challenged, as a child coming up in poverty, severe abuse, in many different realms. So, you built this big shield, and this mask that you wear when you present to the world, because we were always taught what goes on at home stays at home. Yeah. So even if you're going through all these things, when you come out, no one's going to see that. And that the military is actually perfect for someone who's come from that environment, because the stuff that you go through, you have to perform. It doesn't matter. And you feel like you need to outperform everyone else just to get, the same types of accolades or advancements as other people. So you're like, oh no, I've been doing this. I'm going to outshine. I'm going to do it 10 times. Not realizing that takes away from your health. All these years, wearing this mask, performing, and not really being able to be authentic to your true self. You see things that you don't always align with, not everything, right? But you learn what I do love is you learn these leadership skills. You're put to the fire. So anything that you can survive inside, you can survive outside. But like I said, I had already had that fire before I even came in. And so with transitioning out, especially the way that I did, it was very unconventional. I served, over 20 years and 8 months. I did 20 years and 8 months. Wow. But I thought I was going to be a career person. Again, it was working for me until it no longer did. And, but it helped me because now being a full-time entrepreneur, running multiple businesses and helping other people who are leaders in the community in the world, because I have clients who are international as well. It gives you a broader sense of humanity because you've seen so many things and you've traveled and you've met people all over the world. So I think it prepares you, more so than someone who hadn't had those experiences. It prepares you, and for the ups and downs that you go through with entrepreneurship, with coaching, with all the things that you do, like you're not going to give up easily because again, you're able to adapt. And I think there was a saying in the Air Force, and it was like adapt and overcome. And that's exact. I mean, like I said, we've known that before, but I think it really, helped us to hone in on those skills.
Yeah, that makes sense actually now that you say that. I know like in other high pressure environments like academia, and even like when I used to work in like the New York City restaurant industry, it's almost as if those environments are catered to people that have childhood trauma because it's like you can thrive. Then you realize it's toxic and it's like I don't want to keep reliving kind of that, like the mask, like you said, like feeling like everything is kind of building up behind that. But the face you have to give to the world is kind of perfection. And so like, how were you able to kind of like break out of that and like get into like spiritual healing? Because being spiritual is kind of the complete opposite of that. It's about confronting like who you are underneath that mask and like that shadow work. And also kind of this idea of like group thought, like you all kind of like taught to think as a group in order to like work and do your job, right? So like breaking out of that kind of environment, I can imagine to go on a like single path, like going from like group to individual. That must have been like a shock to your system, but also like something that's extremely difficult, like as an individual human being to like do. So I'm just curious, like how that was for you and like what inspired you to kind of make that path pivot,
that transition. Well, I'll tell you, because again, we're going to talk about because I would have still been in. So it wasn't like me deciding, let me, So what happened was in 2019, I got promoted to 06. It was because I had changed services by that time. And so I made captain, which / colonel in about, what was it, 16 years. And so I made it early. So I was, you know what I mean? I had worked for the Surgeon General of the United States. I was at the White House with President Obama all the time, like all these things, and I was, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a senator. I'm going to, all these things that I wanted to do. And when I made that rank, now I was raised by my grandmother because, I was removed from my mom's home because of all the abuse and all that. And when the day that I found out, my immediate thought was, oh my goodness, I got to call my Nana. But my Nana was no longer here. And that day I had a sense of, and I worked my butt off, Tinora, like sleeping in your office kind of thing. I was relentless. I had to be the best. I had to do all the things. And so I was overkill. And when I made it and I found out, I couldn't tell my grandmother because she was the one that really pushed me to do all. She was like, no, like you don't get out there crying. She made me a beast. They were from the South, and they brought my family to the North. And so I had the best of both worlds, but they taught me to be very self-reliant, this independent woman, don't depend on anyone. And when she wasn't there, I felt kind of sad. And it was like, I worked so hard for this. So I think there was a little bit of a shift then because I was questioning. And then, of course, I was still doing mental health. As you go up in rank, you do more high level administrative jobs and leadership positions. And so I was still seeing patients, but you notice like people just keep coming back. They go through therapy their whole life. There's not, it's like temporary change. There was so I think I started kind of soul searching for myself in 2019. Okay. Then 2020 comes. Oh, you going to ask God for something? make sure you ready for the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2020 comes. What's 2020? COVID. Oh, okay. I'm going to get deployed. So they deployed me to the Navajo Nation, the most desolate area. They sent me by myself.
Mm.
Okay. And it was an awakening. That was the
Mm.
beginning of the true awakening for me. They sent me out there and I was listening to the stories. I was seeing the death toll that was out there. And I was like, these people live in the United States and they don't have running water in their home. Like, it was
Mm.
almost, I felt stupid, kind of like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm going out there to be the mental health provider for 2 medical centers for all the staff. And
Wow.
I have my life experience, but based on what they've been through, what am I like? Seriously?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what? And so it was like an awakening. And I started, I was like, you sent me out here to do what? Really?
Mm.
It was almost like the mask was coming off because I wanted to be very authentic in this environment because they have to invite you in. Like, you're not
Mm-hmm.
coming in there like you have to come in with humility, which I did. They treated me so great. But it was an awakening because I started to feel a shift in my own spirit. It was very dark there. It was dangerous in many senses. Like,
Mm.
a lot was happening on the spiritual realm for me. So when I came home, I started to kind of, I was feeling very irritable while I was there, like something was going on.
Mm.
And I know it was trauma, obviously. I was having acute stress trauma. And when I came home again, what do? Oh, I'm gonna work out. I know what to do. I've been through stress before. So I was
Mm-hmm.
working out really hard twice a day, doing my Peloton, walking with my husband, doing all the things. And then one night I tried to get up and I couldn't walk.
Mm.
Now, when I talk about extreme pain, I'm talking about extreme pain. All right.
Yeah.
So again, I still didn't wake my husband up. What I do, I crawl to the bathroom. I got this.
Okay.
I got this.
Having
Crawl to the
flashbacks.
bathroom. And what I do when I get to the bathroom, Tinora, I couldn't get up. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the bathroom crying on the floor. So my husband hears me. He gets me up. What's going on, Malaysia? Like, and I'm like, I can't walk. I'm in extreme pain. So I go to the bathroom. He helps me back in the bed. Ultimately, what I try to do, didn't go to the doctors. Tiger Balm,
Mm.
right? I did karate. I know about Tiger Balm.
I love Tiger Balm.
Again, I don't
Yeah.
need nobody. I got this. I'm gonna take. So I was overdosing on Advil. So one of my girlfriends, she was a PA. She's like, Malaysia, I'm afraid that I don't know what's going on because I was thinking if it ain't broke, I did marathons before. Like, I know what pain is. I did bodybuilding. I know what pain is. I could do it.
You can't walk.
Ice, heat.
Black
Again,
women.
what happened when our grandparents raised us? We never went to the doctors
Epsom
ever.
salt.
We never went. And
Yeah.
so, okay, finally, the pain's too much. My girlfriend, Malaysia, you gonna overdose on Advil. I need you to go to the doctor. So I went. So the ambulance picked me up because I couldn't get down the stairs. They had to, get a thing to bring me down. And I get there, and it was like this little medical center. It wasn't even a hospital. I don't know why they didn't bring me to the hospital. Again, so I'm like, okay, nothing must be wrong with me then. They take a x-ray, don't see nothing, give me morphine and send me home. Oh, y'all said I was fine. So ultimately, like, it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I knew, I don't know, spiritually, I knew I was dying. And actually, I didn't put the dots together at the time, but my grandmother came to me in a dream
Mm.
several weeks before I couldn't walk. And she told me it was time to come home with her. And I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I had a great life. Let's go. And again, I still didn't connect the dots, but I was at
Mm.
peace when she told me, when I got the message. So ultimately ended up, my husband's like, no, we going to the military hospital. I'm like, but I can't walk down the stairs. He's like, I'm going to carry you. So I got on his back. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs because
Mm.
I knew this type of pain was unlivable. So we get to the hospital. They transfer me. We went to Andrews. They transferred me to Walter Reed. I'm in there for 4 days. They can't figure out what's going on with me. And it's a training hospital. So they're like, can we bring the classroom in, and the fellows and the residents, they bringing them in, they taking notes. And I'm like, sure, because I was a resident, at Andrews when I first came in. So I was like, sure, After 4 days, they said, and they're giving me Dilaudid. So that's higher than morphine.
No, I know.
I was still in extreme pain. Like, imagine being high and extreme pain at the same time.
And
so
thinking that nothing's
they
broken.
come in the room, Captain Harrell, we can't find anything. We're sending you home today.
Oh, God.
You sending me home? I said, listen, you can euthanize me. Get the paperwork. You can't live with this pain. Nobody can live with this pain. I'm ready to go. Like, do whatever you got to do. So I was like, I'm definitely not going home. So y'all can do what y'all got to do. Y'all can take me out of my misery. So they ended up taking a sample of my hip. Tinora, within whatever was the time frame, 20 minutes, whatever, everybody running in the room. Running in the room. What's going on? We got to get her into surgery. We got to check her heart. So I had sepsis.
Jesus.
For those of you who know about sepsis, it is a bacterial infection that basically it shuts your organ down one by one when it reaches your heart. Most people, so Ronnie Coleman, for those of you who are in the bodybuilding world, he just has sepsis. I think Albie Shore has sepsis, and he had to get, an organ transplant. Most people need transplants of their organs. Some people lose their limbs. A lot of people die. So I've heard of people after that, who, they know other people who were at an event and died within a day or died that same day. So
like
I was going to be out of here. So when you asked me the original question of how did you get into spirituality, really, I was shifted.
You were forced.
So that near-death experience and everything that happened after, because I developed other life-threatening conditions. I was on oral chemo, 254 pounds. I had Bell's palsy. So it was almost like, again, I think the shift started in 2019, and I kind of asked some questions. And God was like, I have a plan for you, but you would have never been obedient to what I need you to do. Not to say that, because I did develop it, I got infected at the deployment. I know that. And so I don't know exactly, but, what I'm saying is I don't know what's meant to be, but I know that things do need to happen in order to shift you with your divine assignment. So it's great to be successful and have all the things. But when you're not in divine alignment, you'll see people. And I think of like Kate Spade, right? You look at this billion-dollar industry and a billionaire, and she took her own life. And so it's not about success. It's not about the outwardly appearing things that society deems as successful, but it is, what are you doing to use the gifts that God gave you to give back to society, to humanity, whatever you've been called to do. And now that's what I do. It was a natural progression. Mental health was already something, but it really was a natural progression to this, I believe.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you were beyond guided.
Oh.
Even hearing your story, like I think we had this brief conversation. We talked very briefly before, but
yeah,
the coincidences and like, your Nana, I have a Nana too. My great grandmother, and she's like definitely like my spirit guide.
Yes.
And when she passed of cancer, and it kind of like uprooted my life. Like I left college 1 degree short of graduating to go take care of her, and then I never ended up going back for 7 years.
What?
Yeah, like that's how I ended up in the New York restaurant industry. My whole life went from boarding school to college to homeless to to married to a professor to my life story has been wild. But it was my grandmother, and when she passed, it was like my will to live went with her. It just, life didn't make any sense anymore. And then it was my first comeback from that was 2016. I quit my bartending job. I made a bunch of money, more money I've ever made in my life bartending. Like I do not knock bartenders. There's no shame. I made great living, met great people, some of the best people in my life.
Yeah.
At the worst time of my life, like the best people in my life.
Yeah.
But quit that job. And the first place we went to was Standing Rock. in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Before like the media got there, before the hype, and I went to this dude's teepee. Like, it sounds super cliche and crazy, but this like elder dude, and we're having a talk about like revolution in his teepee, and he gifted me like a big quartz crystal stone that I still keep to this day, and some sweet grass. But like that's when my awakening happened. It was just like, I don't know how to describe it, like a cloud lifted, and like just seeing how everybody was like living and sharing, and we just showed up and people were like, let's help set up your tent. Oh, we got horses. You want to ride our horses? Oh, this is where you get food at. This is where the sweat lodges. Like everybody volunteers here. And I was just like, yo, like, why can't we all live like this?
Yes.
And
you
from
feel
there on, it's just been
authentic
crazy
with them. And I think that's when it started. Like I couldn't wear no mask there.
Yeah. And there was no, we were out in the middle of nowhere, so there was no internet, no nothing. They had a casino that they owned that you could go to and like charge the phone there and like use internet. And even that, like, you know what I mean? Like they were so hospitable to like I didn't know nobody. Like we just showed up like, hey, we're down for the protest, and like felt like family. After like that was the darkest like 5 years of my life after my grandfather, and to just feel like amongst strangers, like, oh, there is goodness in the world. And that put me on this path of wildness that we're on now. But then to hear you talk about what happened with you, and I'll just briefly tell this story, but my wife, who just passed from cancer in November, how she found out was that I was in Switzerland for a friend's wedding. And she was calling me like, yo, I'm on the bathroom floor crying, but I think I'm okay. And I was like, if you don't take your ass to the hospital, like I'll fly home now and miss the wedding. Like I was furious. And she was like, nah, like and it was that same type of just like overachieving. And then she was a, amazing, super successful professor, but the trauma that she had been through in her life, and the mask that she felt like she had to upheld, I swear to you, that's what brought the cancer. But if she was like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm like, you're on the floor crying. So when you said that, like my face, like it was like the biggest flashback. Like, why do y'all do this? But it's real. Like, it's real. And I think that's why we're having this conversation today for people that are living that life. Like, no, like you don't have to be in pain. You don't have to be hiding from yourself. You don't have to be hiding from your trauma. Like all of that is what's keeping you sick and stuck. And that was really the catalyst to this whole project that I'm doing. So I don't know, when I just hear your story, it lights me up, and it reminds me that like there's a reason. Sometimes I feel like, yo, what are you doing? But then it's like I hear your story and other people's stories, and I'm like, all right, like there's definitely a reason.
It
I just wanted to throw that in there.
You're amplifying this message for us because obviously we don't know about taking care of ourselves. Like we're on fight or flight. We need to survive. You live in an environment where people make you feel like you're not enough. You're not beautiful enough. You're not the right weight. You don't see yourself. I mean, they're starting to change things now, a little bit. And then now people are trying to revert it back, but it's just really the awakening to say that I am human. Because I don't know if we always identified as human. We were like, we gotta, like your ancestors, now you've picked up this trauma, this helm, and now you're carrying that weight of your ancestors. And my thing is, I think we can carry and bring the resilience and the things, the gifts that we've been given and passed down. But that trauma, we got to put them bags down. Obviously our parents were traumatized, their parents, and then you're traumatized by your parents or whoever. And then now you got to go live with your grandmother or whoever. Like, so it's just passed down, passed down, passed down. But it's time for us to release those traumas and to acknowledge ourselves as a spiritual being who is having a human experience and allow us to be in that, but also really acknowledge that spiritual side, because then you realize I'm not alone. I thought I was alone for a very long time. Even being in a marriage, I felt like I was alone because I don't think anybody understood what I was going through with that spiritual change that was coming and how, it transformed you to a new person. So the people that they knew before is not the person who it is now. And so it's just a lot of transformation. It transforms your relationships, hopefully for the better. but it's been tough. It's been tough.
Yeah.
And that's why, I wrote my book, God Has My Six, because, like you were saying, you could be around people, but you could still feel, and you're successful. You have all the things and you just feel like it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you realize, you tap into, no, I'm a child of God, and I am made in the image and likeness of God. And so I have these powers to co-create with
Mm-hmm.
God. God gives us the ability to not just be faithful and sit here and wait on something. We have the ability to walk forward and do what we need to do and have all the resources that are available to us. So we can use our gifts in that way to
Mm-hmm.
co-create, as opposed to trying to make everything happen like we always do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forcing versus being in the flow, I think, is how I think about
Yeah,
it.
being in the flow.
Yeah. And you get much more done and to a lot less detriment to your body.
Yes.
What is your advice for folks? And I think this is my biggest reason for doing this is how do you get people to get to this place before going through a medical emergency or near-death experience or having somebody else that they love pass? How do we, especially for Black folks and oftentimes, let's be real, like it's not personal choice that people can't have this space to pause and figure all this stuff out by themselves. Like people are in
That's
a
right.
rat race and need to provide for their kids and working 4 or 5 jobs.
That's right.
And so it's not like nothing that I say ever is ever about like victim blaming or putting
Oh no.
you're not doing enough or, you just need to like think happy thoughts and everything. Like the life is real and things are messed up. And it's a system that's designed to keep people constantly moving so that they don't have these thoughts and
That's
conversations.
right. Oh,
But
they're
we're here to
not
disrupt
able to
that.
get in tune. Right.
Yeah, they want to keep you disconnected from spirit because if
That's
you
right.
knew that you could do, you're giving your energy to other people so that they
Mm-hmm.
can be successful. But if you took that energy back, then that would be your success. And
Yeah.
they don't want you to know that, which is why they keep you on the wheel. But like the whole thing that I see now happening is like a kind of global disruption of that. I think more and more people are waking up. And I feel honestly like a revolution has to be individual, like it can't be
Mm-hmm.
forced. It's not going to come through guns and violence. Is going to come through people waking up and being like, nah, like I don't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for people? How do you think that they can get there, especially high achieving Black
Yeah.
women?
Yeah. This is a great question, because I think we had talked, when we talked before, I was saying that people have asked me several times, do you think you have to hit rock bottom
Mm-hmm.
in order to make the change? And I'm saying no,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact of what you just said about humanity being awakened. And it started kind of before COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
COVID was just, but after COVID, when you were like, okay, I used to be in traffic for an hour each way or more to work, and I was able to do it from home, didn't have to pay $2,000-3,000 for child care.
Mm-hmm.
People started to say, and so when they started to try to bring people back, some of the people were like, I'm not going back to that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to. And then some people are like, oh, they're downsizing on the jobs, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like the shift is already coming and you have the opportunity here. But I will tell you, especially for people that I work with, I have certain clients who are, in a different generation, in a younger generation. They didn't go through rock bottom. They're making the
Mm-hmm.
decision now to
Mm-hmm.
do, like, I have one client, she has a business, a thriving business doing graphic design. And she said, nope, it's not in alignment. That's not what I want to do. And we're working together for her to start a TV show.
I love that.
And she's going to pitch it. So it's like, these are just different things. I think things are happening. But to answer your question, I have this tattoo. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably can't. But anyways, it says the art of surrender. That
Mm-hmm.
is the answer for me. That is the answer that came to me after, everybody asked, what is the biggest thing you've learned with your experience? Surrender.
Yeah.
Because we think, when we're thinking with our human mammal mind, right? We can't fathom, I think it was Oprah. I just saw her in DC last year.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, I am the manifestation of God's dream for my life.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that for a minute. God's dream is way bigger than our dream. We don't even have the capacity to fathom what God has for us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just surrender and say, God, again, when I started asking the question in 2019, when I made that rank, and I was like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to make admiral, you know what I mean? Like, oh
Always the
no.
goalpost is getting
But it
pushed
was like,
back.
no, I didn't feel it then. It was like something really started to change. So when you get in connection with the divine, when you get in connection with God, things change, because then you have a guide. It's like you have this spiritual GPS that kind of tells you. So even though you go through the ups and downs of life, you have this GPS that kind of guides you, and that's your intuition, that's your spirit. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody approaches you and want to offer you this opportunity, you're going to know if it's right or not, right? The podcast that I've been getting on, meeting people in divine alignment and divine timing with
Mm-hmm.
the exact same mission, to get awareness, to help us to become the highest version of ourselves as a spiritual being, as a human spiritual being. And so not just, getting the cars and the house, all that stuff. It means nothing. When I was on my deathbed, all of that meant nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, what kind of, I didn't get the house that I wanted. None of that mattered. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I was thinking about? I never learned to swim.
Mm.
You're thinking about death. You're thinking about, birth when you came in through water. I don't know. It was some connection to the water. It was like, and water's healing. It helps your
Mm-hmm.
body. I mean, it's so many connections there. But I think starting with asking God the question, but being open to the answer.
That's a
Because
real one.
when I asked the question, the answer came, but things didn't. I don't think I would have ordered it that way off the menu, the way it happened. But I will say that it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because ultimately, if I carried all of that, all of those years, and I wore the mask all of those years, and helping everyone else and getting more vicarious trauma, working with other people, where would I have been at 60, 70 years old? Maybe
Mm.
you've heard it, where I think it was Dr. Maya Angelou. She talked about not being able to talk for years. I saw her in DC when
Mm-hmm.
she came one time to the Indian Smithsonian Museum,
Oh, cool.
Native American Smithsonian. And there were years that she didn't talk.
Mm-hmm. After being
So
like
your
molested or
body
something.
keeps the score. I went to the training. I read that book. Your body and mind and spirit, everything. These Black women who are having aneurysms, heart
Mm-hmm.
attacks, all the things that are happening to us. We have, fibroids, everything. Your body keeps the score. Just remember that. So if you decide to ask God the question, practice the art of surrender, that's a starting point, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot that you're going to go through to learn about yourself. There's a lot of, like you said, work that needs to be done on your inner self and your outer self that needs to happen. But I'm no longer the woman that I was before. And when I work with my clients, it's the same thing. The goal is to become a higher version of yourself, not to be the person that you were before.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. I remember back in I think it was like 2016, I was having really bad social anxiety, and all kinds of anxiety. And I was just like, yo, like, please just like take the fear away. And
Mm-hmm.
the series of events that happened after that, like I could tell you, you got to be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Like I done faced death on several occasions, and it's just like, yeah, like the fear is gone. And so hearing you say that, like it reminded me, like, oh yeah, I remember saying like, please take this away, and I'm looking like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
the prayer was answered, not in a way that you think it might happen, but in a way that it needed to happen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that you said, it resonates so deeply, and I think it definitely is going to resonate with a lot of people that are listening, because we're all going through the same things, no matter what your path or your life looks like, what your job looks like. Everybody's kind of going through these same
Mm-hmm.
archetypal traumas and issues, and even joys and wins.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also a good thing to talk about and lean into is like the positive side of healing, because it's not all just like the dark night of the soul and
No.
Fighting demons.
No, you'll come out of it on the other side and you're going to see, wow, I didn't even really, you're going to be able to see. You're going to have true vision. You're going to see things that are not in the scene. You know, you won't identify with life the way it was before, but it's like the gates just open for you. And you start, like you were talking about, going into the flow. You start meeting people and getting resources that you need to get things done. You don't know how they're going to come. So I wake up every day with the mantra, you know, God, what do you have for me today? Is it something that you want me to do? You know, you'll get these divine inklings to, you know, sow a seed in someone or send someone a text or a note or a gift set, you know, whatever that is. And so you're starting, I just love it when I can get those downloads and get those messages and put the messages out to everybody else too. Like the goal is not to keep it to myself. It's to use it for the greater good of humanity.
For sure. I think that's why we're all here, to like share our knowledge. And like you said, like getting those downloads and things like that, it just requires clarity. I think a lot of people think that it's something that you have to like meditate 15 times a day or do all of these spiritual practices, but really just like taking time to sit with yourself and clearing out your mind can make the world of difference. What I was going to ask you before that I forgot to ask was, when you were going through that near death experience, you had mentioned seeing your grandmother in a dream and being like, I'm ready to go. What was it that made you stay? Like what was it that pulled you through, that made you want to stay?
Well, again, I didn't mentally connect the dots, but I think it was a spiritual thing. I think she was warning me that something was wrong, to the point that it was, because that's when it kind of planted the seed and I knew I was transitioning, you know, but in the scene, no one saw that. Oh, I'm going to send you home. Your vitals are fine. You know, your blood count is fine. You know what I mean?
So that's what put the plant in to be like, no, you need to check again.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have. I think that made me advocate more because I knew the seriousness of it, even though I didn't connect the dots, what my grandmother said.
Got you.
You know what I mean? But I'm not going to lie. There were times where I wanted to go. And I'm like, so like there was one night you were talking about the dark night of the soul, and I was facing that time period. And I was like, okay, imagine someone, very accomplished life, what society deems as accomplished, what your family deems as accomplished, your friends, you got it all from what everybody else sees. And you're 254 pounds, you're in extreme pain, you don't look like yourself, your face is drooping down. I don't want this life.
Yeah.
So it's like, God, I know you have a plan. If you want me here, I want to be obedient to what you want me to do, which I'm doing, because I'd rather go be like Eckhart Tolle and just be in the mountains somewhere and come out and do a couple events and go back home. You know what I mean? Like, I really, I really would just want a more, you know, but I feel like someone will be helped in some way. There may be some message. I know I listen to different people. I listen to Eckhart Tolle. I listen to David Goggins, you know, the days that I needed him to say, get yourself up, you know. And, but it wasn't easy, because I'm like, if I rather, you know, I don't want to live like this. Like, I'm good, you know? So it was like, it was a process, and it took a lot of healing. I had 9 surgeries, you know, 5 years, oral, like I said, oral chemo, all these treatments, poke prodded every kind of way. And it's like, who wants to live that life? So I'm ready, like deuces, like I don't, but again, when I surrendered, and I know that sounds so cliche, but you could tell I did.
Yeah.
Because you could see it. Like, I don't look like what I was. And that was not me. That was the power of surrender and doing what I was called to do. And when I started doing that, I could be authentic. I can talk to people. You know, when you're in uniform, you have to talk a certain way, you know, and so I can talk, and my grammar doesn't have to be perfect every single time. You know what I mean? I could be who I know, where I come from. I know where I am now, and I can be authentic, you know? And so and then you start to be at peace.
Mm.
I think your neurological system starts to, calm down. Your vagus nerve starts
Mm-hmm.
to, regulate properly. Your digestive system is able to work properly.
Yeah.
If your digestive system isn't working and you're having these headache, all these things is because you're on fight or flight.
Yeah, no, that's real. It's a full body system that
It
people
is.
don't really think about. Like, it's not just mental health or like it's a full, holistic, complete
Yeah.
system. And that goes back to like stillness and taking time out to like listen to your body and notice those warning signs before they become like,
Yes.
emergency warning signs. It starts with like the little like eye palpitation, like, you start feeling your eye twitch.
Oh yeah, I had shooting pain, with trigeminal neuralgia, so many things that I can't even list all the things that I, have experienced with my medical stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's the twitching, it's all neural, it's pain, it's the shooting pain in different limbs in your body. It's the pain in your chest that you just think, oh, it's nothing wrong. You go through it and you just go through. And because, here's the thing too, when we do go to the doctors, I have all this time, I'm going to finally go.
Yeah.
And you look at me, because what happened was after I was hospitalized for that first one, I had my first 3 surgeries in 2020. My hair started falling out in
Mm-hmm.
January. And my stylist, my hairstyle, again, I'm coming to the hair, on a walker and stuff, trying to get my
Mm-hmm.
hair done, trying to keep myself. And she was like, because she did units for people who, were cancer patients. And so she was like, I think you need to go to the doctors. Your hair's falling out. And I'm like, oh, it's probably just stress, and all these meds that I'm on, whatever, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And so I really didn't go. So it wasn't until April when I thought I was having a stroke. And I went back to the ER, and then they took a chest x-ray and they found all these nodules all over my chest.
Wow.
So again, it was more stuff happening. That's when I had to take the oral chemo. They thought it was cancer. It was sarcoidosis. And, a lot of people. And so the first thing they told me when it took about 6 months to get diagnosed. Again, the gaslighting,
Yeah, that's the
and then
thing.
I went to get my hair checked. Oh, and they're like grilling me about wearing a stocking cap or a nightcap. I need to see it. Like, that's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff I'm telling you. That's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So you like, and so, and it's just sad to say this, but in the veteran community, we have a very high suicide rate.
Mm-hmm.
And now with me, treating all these mental health patients, but being on the other side of it, I can empathize now.
Oh,
You
yeah.
ask for help and people make you feel like you're a burden and you're
Mm-hmm.
just there to bother them, or you're just there to get something. If I'm coming in, that means something's wrong, because I didn't go all these years. You know what I mean? Never was hospitalized my whole life. And they sent in, oh, I didn't say this. They sent in the psychiatrist to evaluate me.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. You just got back from deployment. So yeah, you're like, so yeah. So to answer your question, I didn't just say like, I'm going to stay. I didn't shoot. It was really a discussion with God to say, if you want me here, then I will be obedient to do what you need me to do in
Mm.
order to stay. But I do not want to stay like this.
No, I feel that deeply. Yeah, so many things there. One, make sure you find a doctor. Hopefully, if for Black women in particular, if you can find a Black woman doctor, try to all the time. My wife used to always say that the only reason that they found her cancer is because there happened to be a Black ER doctor the night that she went in, or else they would have sent her back. She had been complaining about issues for months and months when she was in New Orleans. She was a professor at Tulane. And doctors literally were like writing her off. One doctor
Yep.
was making her get her liver checked like every week, but like they didn't check for cancer. And by the time she found out she had cancer, her tumors on her liver were like 9-10 inches, like
What?
huge. And they all like, it was a wild. When I say like I like spiritually, like the reason I asked the question I asked, I had this experience with my wife very early on when she first got diagnosed. They told her she had a year to live. And we went to Montreal, and I do Reiki. And so I was doing Reiki for her. And like I out into a trance. We were both just out of it. And it was like we were like in the spirit realm together. And I remember this still vividly. It's the first time anything like this ever happened to me. And she was like, I'm gone. And I was like, wait, you can't leave yet. And she was like, why? If anybody that knows my wife, she has a very rebellious side to her. We call Little Cookie. That's her childhood nickname. She was a fierce energy powerhouse, 4'11", but like the energy and of like Shaq. Like you would think, I remember this vividly, having this conversation with her in this other realm. Like, I need you to stay. And she looked at me like with this attitude and was like, fine. And she came back into her body, and we both kind of woke up, and we both remembered having this out of body experience together. And after that, and I kid you not, like I could show people her tumors were shrinking in half every time we went to the doctor, to the point where they told her that 90% of her liver was covered in tumors. It was down to 10% within like 4 to 5 months. Like, it was just miraculous. And so when she passed, it was a way shock, because I felt like we did all this spiritual work together. And it was like, I thought the prize was like, oh, she's going to live, and the story is going to be like she beat these odds. And she did, she lived for 2 years past the diagnosis. But when she passed, she came to me again. And before she passed, actually, she said some things to me that made me realize, like, oh, I thought I came into her life to save her, but she actually came in and was waiting to save me. And she was like, oh, I was just here to teach you these, and now it's my time to go. It wasn't my time to go then, because we had to go through these things together.
Right.
But like, it was like the way in which like we got an apartment, all of her stuff was like shipped from New Orleans. We finally decided we were going to pick a place to stay after like traveling around for the last 2 years. No idea she was going to pass.
Wow.
Like, the apartment is all set up. All of her things are here. Thousands of her books. Like, and within 2 weeks of that, hospital, just rapid decline. And I was so deeply into it that I couldn't see what was happening, but I did know what was happening, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was getting like all the spiritual hits that were like preparing me, but also being shielded in a way that like it wasn't hitting. Yeah. Because even up until the day, the doctors were like, oh no, she's going to be fine. Like, they were about to discharge her. And then once it was like, oh, she needs to go to hospice, within like a few hours, she was like, all right, I'm out. And it was like, I was very aware that like it was her decision. She stayed with me up the night before. We had our last moments together. And I thought I was going to be devastated. Like, not want to live anymore type devastated. But the way in which my spiritual belief grew after that, it was like, I don't know. It doesn't even make sense.
Well, anyway, it doesn't make sense to people who are not connected, but I know that, that relationship was just the beginning of the journey, and it's like, sometimes you are more connected with people when they're in the spiritual realm. It's interesting. You don't, because you're on fight or flight, you're doing what you need to do, but the journey's just beginning.
That's the part. And
I learned so much from that.
It like cracked open that whole idea of like, oh, this is not the end all be all, right? And also, I feel her strongly with me all the time. It's like she never left. So all that is to say, like, there's like this relay race kind of thing going on, where it's like we're passing each other batons and passing this knowledge and the experience that we have. With my, thought that is to help people like not have to go through as much, and each generation it'll be easier and easier so that we can eventually arrive at peace, is what my thought is. But hearing your story, it's like, it's wild, because you would think that I would be depressed hearing like, oh, I've been through these things with my wife in the very same kind of thought process and places, and she didn't make it, but you made it through. And I was like sitting with, oh, should I feel sad about that, or should I feel sad? But I just feel like so much joy of like, because I knew, like, I was like, I know it's possible. And I think that there are so many different paths that you can choose and take.
There are.
And so it for whatever reason, like clicked in me. It was like, oh no, like you weren't bugging. Like there was a possible path. Like it is possible to come out and survive and thrive. And so I feel like I'm looking like, not like I'm looking at my wife on a different timeline, but I'm like, oh, like it's proof of what I thought in my spirit in a different way. And also like a proof that there was never a law. Like there's not a feeling of like, oh, you made it and my wife didn't. Right. It's like, I feel like I'm next to my wife and we're both looking at you like, oh, look, like she, and we both understand what it took to go through that. You know what I mean? Like we've been in that same spot. And I, kudos to your husband, because that, as being the partner in that situation,
it was
and a lot
hard.
of people,
I'm so grateful for him. It's funny because I met him right before my grandmother died.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole thing with manifestation that I did to manifest my husband. But when I found out that she only had a certain amount of time to live, I was like, I dropped everything and said I had to go back home to Massachusetts. And he dropped everything. He's like, I'm bringing you. We were just dating. We just met each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, I bring him with me, and I didn't mean for him to meet her. Like, he was just going to be in the way. She was like, bring him in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. So she brought him in. She's talking to him. And she's like, well, I want you to, she had him go get her coffee. And she,
Mm-hmm.
he's nervous, trying to stir, he went, and she was like, Malaysia, like, she was basically signing off on him. And I'm like, I just
Mm-hmm.
met this guy. He's just bringing me up here to see you. And she's like, no, you never brought a man home. I was like, he was just my ride. So she basically signed off on him. Because
That's
I
wild.
probably, I don't know if I would have gotten married right then. How everything happened. I ended up marrying him the same year, that
Wow.
we met. And it's like she really signed off on him. And, your marriage is tested so early in the relationship, for better or for worse. So imagine having to like take care of me, work, do everything. He's been doing everything.
No,
And
I
it's a
know.
lot on him, And
I
so,
know.
again, now I just think it's important to ask for help for other things. You know what I mean? So I get help from, somebody coming in and helping to do this or help to do that, but he doesn't need all the stress on him if I can't have all the stress. You know what I mean?
No, of
So
course.
ask for
People.
help. Like, we're military, like we could do it. No, if you need somebody to, he still does the grocery shopping, but if you need something delivered, if you need,
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting a laundry. He likes doing the laundry too. Military, they very controlling over their stuff. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I ask for a lot more help now. I will say that. But thanks for sharing your story, because I think it's so important. I think, when you made a comment earlier and you said, it sounds crazy, or people won't understand, and they won't. And it
Yeah.
does sound crazy. And I sounded crazy for a long time. I felt like I didn't fit in with the world anymore. Like I said, it was like, I don't really want to do this anymore because I didn't fit in any longer. But that's when you've been awakened, and it's almost like the curtain with the Wizard of Oz has been opened, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't unsee it now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a blessing, because the Bible talks about us all having spiritual gifts. And people think, oh, that's, when you talk about Reiki, oh, that's, but it
Oh,
says
please. My grandmother
everybody
laid hands.
has spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
And so if you have a gift, are you supposed to put it away in the closet? No, you are supposed to use it in the way that God wants you to use it. So I think it's great that you can
Jesus did
see now. You
Reiki.
have true vision, not just with your eyes, but you have vision. And that's a different thing to have. And it's a blessing, and it's not always a blessing, because you see too much sometimes and you hold it on your spirit and you see humanity for what it is. But
No,
if you
it's
can
real.
keep yourself locked in with God, I'm telling you, it changes the game. It changes.
I know.
Yep.
I know. I really feel like you're testifying right now, as my grandmother would say. But yeah, no. I feel I
Yeah.
grew up my grandmother was Pentecostal, and so the names
Yeah.
of all these things she we couldn't celebrate Halloween, and everything was witchcraft. But she was laying hands on people, and whenever anybody was dying, they were calling her to the
Yeah, they
hospital
always
room.
they always had it. The
Yeah.
anointing, they had it. It was just called something else. But if you use it for the good, but it's the same. Everybody calls it something different. Everybody uses it in a different way, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. We're all spiritual beings.
Yes.
There's no difference between all of us. And that's not to say that you shouldn't celebrate your culture or be happy about where you came from, but that doesn't also mean that you can't celebrate and take pride in and appreciate other people's. Like, there doesn't need to be
Yes.
competition. And so,
Yes,
yeah,
it's
I
important.
100% believe that. Everything
Yeah.
that I got, I feel like I got from my grandmother. Would she call it and say it and do it like I'm doing it today? No, but that's why I'm here now,
It's
because
the
I'm the next
same.
generation.
Reiki is basically laying hands.
It's
It's the
100% the
same
same
thing.
thing. There's no difference.
It's the
I
same.
grew up, my grandmother always, everybody would always testify to the fact that if they were sick or something was wrong with them, and my grandmother touched them, immediately they would
Yep.
feel better.
Yep.
Immediately. And
Yeah.
so, like, growing up around that,
It's just, I would be more caught as we're having this conversation. I would be cautious to have discernment, though.
oh,
So
yeah.
just like you wouldn't let everybody put hands on you, the
No, no,
same
no, no,
thing
no.
with any other, practitioner. You got to have discernment. You got to feel that that is a safe space. But you'll know right off because
Energy does not
now
lie.
that we're talking,
Yeah.
like, I got to put this in there. So when I started to delve in my spiritual gifts, things changed. Everybody can't be around me. Let's just say that. It's weird. But before, I used to have a million people around me. Now it's different. I don't have as many people around me. But there was this one time I went in for a massage. Okay. Going to get healing touch, whatever. The lady started talking about, she was into like Harry Potter and all that kind of, the kind of spiritual realm, but a different kind, like more sorcery, it seemed like. And again, I'm open. Like you said, I want to learn. I'm not, judging. So I had just had surgery a little while ago. I get in the room with this lady and the bed falls. Have you ever been to a spa and the bed falls, but I had surgery?
Yeah, no, I
So
take that as
it was all
signs.
bad. It was all bad. I couldn't
That's a
get,
sign.
I essentially couldn't get, because she told me she had went to the castles and she's sneaking in the castles and getting in trouble, trying to go off, veer off. So it was like something about her, whatever. God said, you can't touch me.
Yeah.
God would not allow her to touch me. So things like that, you'll be like, oh my God, I came here for a massage. Things will happen that you don't understand, but you will always be protected. And so I will say, I had to put that in
That's
there
true.
because I was like, it's a different responsibility you have when you open up to that. Everybody won't be able to be around you and everybody won't be able to touch you.
No, that's true. I feel like I've been in this isolated space for like about almost a year now, where I've been like completely, it's just like me and my dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like praying, like, how am I supposed to meet community? Like I kept getting these calls. They're like, oh, a new community is coming and like, you're going to align with your people. And I'm just like, how? Like, I don't leave the house except to like go walk the dogs. And then this podcast idea came out of nowhere. And everybody that I've met through this has had similar stories and similar paths. And so I'm just like, all right, like, you know what I mean? Like every time that I doubt and I'm like, giving like back chat to like my spirits, like, they're just like, yeah, wait and see. Like, so yeah, like, and also what you said before, like discernment, super key. I feel like the more in tune and in line you get with spirit, the easier it is to kind of be like, oh, like that was a sign, I need to pivot. But for those of us who are hardhead like me, like a lot of the times I feel like I would lean into red flags. Like you get that intuitive thing, like you're like, no, I shouldn't go there. And you're like, well, let me just test it and see. Like, don't do that. Like every time it ends up bad. So it
does. Like, don't, if I had a spiritual nudge yesterday, I was supposed to go somewhere. And spirit said, no, don't. God said, don't go. And I wasn't. But then I get an email that the thing was canceled. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like you were saying, like you start to get, but it was a very strong no. And for whatever reason, something happened, whatever the energy around it ended up getting canceled. So I knew the energy around it wasn't, but again, I have to stay in tune because you're still human. You still have these, and especially when you eat certain things, you get taken away from it, things that are going to cause you to not be in tune. So like you were saying, the mindfulness, just walking, being close to nature, all of those things, the grounding practices, going to retreats. I have a retreat coming up in November that's going to be in Virginia. But just think, like you said, being around community and other people who understand, but also having that time so that you can hear.
100%. Yeah, thank you so much. This conversation has been super powerful and affirming for me, and I'm sure for lots of people. To wrap up, because it's been about an hour. Tell the folks you have a few things coming up. You have your book that's coming out in the fall.
Yes. God has my 6.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's guy has, in military terms, your 6 is your back. That's the time on the clock. God has my back. It's very important for people to know that. It's my teaching memoir that is going to help people who want to make that transformation, whether you are in darkness, you've been in darkness, or you're successful and you really want to be in alignment,
Mm-hmm.
then that book is for you. And also, I'm having a women's retreat.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a very intimate, luxurious experience in Virginia, coming up about 3 hours outside of DC.
Okay.
So that's November 10th through the 12th, just a couple days. It gives you that time to get the tools that you need to rejuvenate, but also prepare you for 2026 to go in it ready, to clear some of that clutter out, get you on your
Mm-hmm.
path and make your blueprint. And then I have the Aligned Success Academy, which is a 12-week cohort that, women go through, mostly high achieving women
Mm-hmm.
who are very successful, but again, they want to transform their life completely. So many of them are business owners. We actually rebrand their personal life and their professional life. So
Very, very cool. There's so
yeah.
much going on. Thank you again so much for coming on,
Yes,
and we'll
thank you for
definitely
having me.
have to have you on again because there's so much to talk about.
Yes.
But this was great. I really appreciate it. We'll have all the links to everything that you're doing down below so people can follow you and keep in touch with what's going on.
Thank you.
And for everybody listening, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and we will be back next week.
Our vibes stay sacred, our roots run deep.